Yeah, I just want to include some information while I'm thinking about it, because, okay, this is June 2025, June 1st, 2025, and what I'm probably going to do another of this with all my lighting. Right now, I'm kind of like really, really on battery power right now. But I just wanted to include something about the June 14th, 1992 baptism at the Mormon Church on a Flag Day, and it seems to be everything really now about the Six Flags baptism of governors, of presidents and governors, and it seemed to be like the thing about the name of the guy at the baptism on Saturday morning, June 14th, 1992, Flag Day. RickDeese is his name at the baptism, okay? And all this information about Reese Witherspoon's name seems to be the thing about Southwestern Bell. Reach out and touch someone and let your fingers do the walk in Southwestern Bell. Her initials, Reese, would be normally in my mind of seemingly of the baptism. Maybe the thing about maybe the International Secret Service, including John Lennon and Yoko Ono, about that Yoko Ono being about the egg whites, beyond the Easter egg basket, and John Lennon about the clothes of what is worn. And the thing of it is that this one particular baptism seemed to be for it is written of presidents and governors and International Secret Service. This being the year like June 1st of like 2025. Reese Witherspoon, I mean, automatically, it was really automatic, really, her name it caught my attention. I mean, like automatically. And I'm actually trying to place my memory of Reese Witherspoon, and her thing about being on television is after June 14th, 1992. And I'm actually trying to place exactly when she became like a visible, automatic thought like of being on television. But when I was like really thinking about the baptism and everything about, like when I was young using spoons for like drumsticks, and like my grandmother putting like pots and pans in front of me with like spoons. I'm using spoons for like drumsticks on pots and pans when I was like in diapers, okay? In any case, yeah, so like it seemed to be that, but the thing with this is that it seemed to be the Dr. Pepper, the RD, the DR, RickDeese's initials, RD, and Dr. Pepper, the DR, and what a deed restriction is, and the 23-year anniversary celebration, and the 23 ingredients. Ultimately, some kind of transition in my mind beyond, William Jefferson, Clinton, Bill Clinton, Al Gore, and I always like to include Chevy Chase about, hosting the 1992 presidential inaugural ball. Yeah, it seemed to be the significance of Chase's 36 in the alphanumerics of subconscious minus Chase. Not limited to, but yes, subconscious minus Chase being 181 Houston, Texas electronic power with WIA International and Selective Service. In any case, yeah, so there seemed to be all this information, and the 23 being the significance of, likewise, Fox 29 News in Philadelphia, and proper English numerical composition presenting the thing about information that would be automatically, the W being two V's, yet the proper English numerical composition of the P being visible and pronounced, and the P being visible and silent being the VP thing about a vice president network, and the N squared thing about, half a cycle above and half a cycle below of one cycle of frequency being measured in isolation. Yeah, and ultimately, the center line of oscillation being at a 90-degree, being like a circle with a dot, or center point that way, or, even a telepathic TP thing about 7-point crown of the Statue of Liberty and the Euro dollar. Yeah, so, and ultimately that symbolic representation between the C and the PTIS of a new compass above the pyramid on the backside of the US $1. But anyway, Reese Witherspoon, okay? And, I've been thinking about this for a long time, because that one particular baptism at the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, in Friendswood, Texas, is Galveston County, okay? The alphanumeric is 213, likewise the area code of Los Angeles. And the thing about Los Angeles being 109, or YouTube, or written, or governor, Los Angeles being 109, that way, and the area code being 213, which is also the idea of like a, that like a governor is president in South America 247, and in my mind automatically a United States Secretary of Treasury, Robert E. Rubin, and a Robert E. Rubin quarter, like a bicentennial drummer, and all the information that seemed to be, you know, really an experience really based upon alphanumeric linguistics, linguistic alphanumerics, and certain factors that had actually taken place. And now it's kind of like, you know, I just want to make sure that the Reese Witherspoon, I mean, automatically it seemed to be about Dr. Pepper, a deed restriction, Abraham Lincoln Night Vision Shadow Government Stargate Program. Let me make sure here. Abraham Lincoln Night Vision Shadow Government Stargate Program, and what the kernel is or is not to Ajax language, computer programming, and the computer thing about the kernel and the language Ajax, kind of like the nanoluminance of night vision, and you know the black and white thing, involving like Ajax being the white language, and the alphanumerics of 36, or chase, or you know oil, or the 36 thing about the telepathic TP, TP being, you know, the 36 thing. Reese Witherspoon, okay, automatically in my mind, and I've been knowing this really for, probably ever since after the baptism, but more and more, you know, recognizing Reese Witherspoon in that way of initials, and forward reverse, Pentagon Reserve reverse, or intelligence, or opposite, with her name and just the initials itself, seems to have the significance like John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and John Lennon, like the wearing apparel, of a written baptism on a worldwide international Secret Service. And all this at first was like not really the way I'm talking about it now. It has got to the point to where, obviously it seems to be involving a lot of information in this area, including Pearland, Texas, about the Z71 in Pearland, or Galveston County, or Chevrolet Silverado, Z71, or telepathic brainwaves, Z71, or what has also been included here recently. It's not that it's here recently, it's just that the Chevrolet IROC Z28 being the alphanumerics of 213. And it seems to be a combine of the rectangle, or the Bureau of Printing and Engraving, identifying high-rise buildings and huge commercial venues during the Stargate program. Seems to be the big deal about when and where the Bureau of Printing and Engraving seems to be, in my mind, the thing that was involved. Automatically in my mind, that's the way I would think about it anyway. How true it is, or limited to, or within description, or whatever the case may be, it seemed to be really the vision part about the incoherence of subconscious minus chase, or oil, equating to like Houston, Texas Electronic Power, we international and selective service. The thing about Reese Witherspoon is like, in my mind, the Witherspoon being the WS, which is actually my first and middle initial, Wade Sterling. The thing with this is that Witherspoon being WS, and then reverse being SW, like Southwestern. Reese, in my experience of RickDeese, it seemed to be the DR of Dr. Pepper that way, and the significance of Dr. Pepper involving a deed restriction, or the 23-year anniversary celebration, and W Television, and what Box 29 News is, and the way, and it seemed to be the proper English numerical composition, when the P is visible and pronounced, and when the P is visible and silent, apply to a W, which is actually two V's, being a VP and a VP, a vice president, like squared, okay? A vice president network, and what the half cycle above and below is to the VPN of like the pronunciation would normally be like, in my mind now, involving the Apple iPhone SE, and pronunciation, the SE being C like yes, yet C like vision as well. The thing with this is that that the W television of Fox 29 News, being a VP and a VP in proper English numerical composition, what the R is and is not the county and country, based upon that practical application, seemed to be the thing about the N having the one cycle, half above and below in pronunciation. And it seemed to be the thing about OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and the thing about, the Lord Jesus Christ said he knew before the foundations of the earth, okay? And construction, it seemed to be the big deal about beyond the front lines of the beach, right, involving concrete and sand, even international financial management of sand software, securities and nucleus network or storage area network of international financial management is the sand software, okay? And the thing about really even Data Foundry, presenting sand software of managing international banking systems, sand software is presented as a predominant source, a type of international financial management software that Data Foundry was presenting at first for a while. And it seemed to be the transition as a method of banking, like leaving the bank and getting to what I see now as a method of banking would only be the monetary and domestic side of neighborhoods, as compared to going beyond a method of banking of investment terminology of human capital, representing, the way I see gross national product of importing and exporting as compared to a power and principality thing between importing and exporting as compared to a vice president network as a method of banking of international banking systems in sand software. Seemed to be the thing about immigration custom enforcement using that type of degree in practical application. Even principles of the New York Stock Exchange as a daily standard transaction. But it seemed to be, at certain times during the New York Stock Exchange that the three movements that in my mind is automatically the monetary, domestic, and gross national product of importing and exporting, the way it's analytically identified seemed to be the thing about the book Secrets to the Temple, How the Federal Reserve Runs the Country. Even Turbulent Waters is a good book, and even Nimitz Glass, and The House of Cards. The House of Cards focuses predominantly, even more so, on international monetary funds and hedge funding, and certain types of information that's linked between the Internal Revenue Service and investment terminology of high-end yields and returns, a cumulative rollover of high-end yields and returns. Some kind of like tech math and alphanumeric linguistics, and it seemed to be that about the House of Cards involving international monetary funding and hedge funds, and even the similarities. Excuse me. Yeah, hopefully I'll get whatever the issue is about having to clear my throat. It seemed to be involving way more than not funny situation. Yeah. So anyway. So in any case, so it seemed to be the thing about the hedge funds and the international monetary funding that has the similarities of some idea as a transition, like the American Idol would present, making a grade beyond internet protocol of a local area network of maritime law, and how the American Idol and J. Edgar Hoover's the real big deal about being amphibious, and J. Edgar Hoover is the one, the Hoover, he's saying about amphibious aircraft, and it seemed to be the automatic, acronym of the FCC and the American Idol and being amphibious, making a grade beyond internet protocol of local area network of maritime law and getting into the aviation and aeronautics and space exploration beyond, what would be maybe just based upon pronunciation like liquid equity, an overabundant amount that would be maybe considered, I don't want to say expendable in the way, but the significance of meaning and value, yet its practical application actually being used as compared to not being used is more so probably the predominant, or whether a projected estimate would only be the anticipation of, maybe not the anticipation of anything further of investment terminology. As a projected estimate, maybe, the thing about liquid oil and going ahead and doing something other than keeping it and using it for its value at the immediate time frame right there. But yeah, like anyway, so like anyway, I want to include that about Reese Witherspoon because it seemed to be that a lot of things about her name and RickDeese is the thing about, obviously, at the baptism, okay, like on Saturday morning, Flag Day, June 14th, 1992, the Mormon Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, FriendswoodTx is Galveston County, okay? Chevrolet Silverado Z71 thing about it, and yeah, telepathic brainwaves, yeah, and the Z71 thing about Paraland, okay? And the smart meter, and Mercedes introducing the smart car, the Smart for Two, and ultimately getting Smart for Two thing about, even the Saturn Sky and the Scion IQ, and ultimately even the summit meetings of 2015, summit meetings of Geneva and the Lexus LFSA. Those three of like Scion IQ being the highest possible score of an IQ being 200, or bicentennial quarter 200-year celebration of America, or a plenipotentiary, or Lord Jesus Christ in transportation, Alpha Max of 200, or a bicentennial drummer. The Scion IQ, likewise, in addition, a plenipotentiary. But the thing with it is that the Saturn Sky, it presents the colors of a rainbow, identical twin rainbow, and the significance of, its name itself, and the colors of the rainbow seem to be the thing about the capabilities of a International Space Station, and Chase being known as a satellite branch, and the Fort Stockton, Texas area. I'm in Pearland right now, and it seems to be the significance of, even the Michael Jackson thing about, hopscotch technology and an atonement, like even the video, Billie Jean, and his initials being like MJ being 23, or Dr. Pepper, the thing about, in my mind automatically what has gone into the color code of AT&T, a transition of like Southwestern Bell, and this baptism that I'm actually referring to, as a matter of fact, yeah, because it seemed to be the thing about the atonement and the plateau of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, being like an atonement of a touchtone phone, yet at the same time a color tone, and now the pasty color sound 900 symbols and representing some idea, including pastel colors, although the pasty color sound 900 presents more of a saturated color as compared to a pastel. The 900 numbers normally automatically identify the idea and thought of like an international phone call with that one-word relation. In any case, it seemed to be, the thought of a 900 number automatically being the communication involving the word relation. Whatever that normally means with 1-900 numbers is really probably what it normally means. Based upon, what participation is or is not, or, professional or business or corporate, or, whatever the deal is about it. But the thing with it is that it seems to be the thing about just identifying the word international as the alphanumeric 152, or a telepathic heart, that way, yeah, or a telepathic VPN, the number 6 alphanumerically being spelled SIX, being 52, yeah, think about 52, or Pearl Drum, even Calamity Jane, involving, horsepower, and the Pony Express, and even thinking about being baptized during the Gold Rush, and on the Wells Fargo stagecoach. I mean, for real. And all that between Wyatt Earp and John Wayne, about all that information. And Hop Sing, yes, Hop Sing. In any case, so like, I want to include that about Reese Witherspoon, and what seemed to be, the thing about, the RickDeese, the guy reaching out and touching my heart, yeah. And, seemingly to be the thing about, Southwestern Bell. And her name, I wanted to include, I've been going to do this for like, probably, 3, 4, maybe 5 years now, what I'm talking about now. Not that I didn't think about it before then, but it's really because of really when I started getting serious about being on YouTube, with me on my drums and lighting and all the effects that you'll see me on at WadeASVPriddy, Priddy, and WadeASVPriddy. And there was like a little time frame of technical difficulties that also included the need of getting the new phone number and doing the email thing, and WadeASVPriddy, Priddy, 240 at youtube.com. Yeah, so like in any case, the only reason I included 240 is about the International Electronic Engineering getting into the commercial venue of 240 volts beyond some idea of the IEEE being 24 and the big O being a 0, and being 240 as compared to what would normally be 39 based upon O being the 15th letter combined with the alphanumeric value of 24 and the IEEE and the O being 39 and OPEC and all that stuff that ultimately gets into the Wyatt Earp, the ERP of 39 and OPEC and some idea of exclusionary rule provision of Wyatt Earp and Diners Club, Wyatt's Cafeteria, and all that Ajax language. It seems to be the connectivity of quantum and Diners Club and the military, of like Wyatt Earp and executive powers, sovereign immunities and governmental amnesties of Earp exclusionary rule provision. And the thing about John Wayne, true grit and litigation, de facto risk of habeas corpus, and Hopsing being the thing about the walk, the amphibious walk of J. Edgar Hoover, involving what seems to be the Oriental Chinese calendar, yet Japanese in 71 in Pearland, and the 90 degree of Japanese being read from top to bottom as compared to English from left to right, and the 90 degree thing about, Brazoria being 90 and the 90 degree right angle. In the movie, yes, the right stuff of like astronauts and that particular movie involving astronauts. And geographically, it seemed to be the thing of significance that way, and the 90 degree right angle ultimately getting into the 90 degree right angle of infinite lines, and ultimately the figure 8 and the extra 0 and the pi r squared, and all that about the infinite lines and practical application of like a pronunciation only, not the degree definition of like pi r squared, and just using the squared, knowing what it means, and pronunciation will ultimately get the second 0, the second O, creating the figure 8 or the infinity on the zoom lens, a perfect 10-10 vision, using stars even in the planetarium, yeah. So like anyway, I wanted to include that and include the thing of the way I'm thinking about Reese Witherspoon and a June 14th, 1992 Flag Day, 6 flag baptism, and John Lennon included in Yoko Ono about, the egg whites and beyond the Easter egg basket. So it seemed to be the misappropriation allocation of the Mississippi that way, of the ISS and the SSI of Mississippi, International Superstar, International Space Station, International Secret Service, and Supplemental Security Income, and Superstar Intelligence, yeah. So like, I thought I'd include that much about it, because it really has that for it is written thing about it in my mind of VSAT communications and global positioning systems. I mean, of a baptism, and the thing about like an identical twin rainbow, which ultimately leads to like Fort Stockton, Texas, and the James Null unit, and an identical twin rainbow and a plateau and a 180 from an identical twin rainbow, and all this information I'm talking about like right now, representative of like including like Boeing Airlines and Qatar Airlines and Emirates Airlines, seemingly to be the thing of Pace Concerts in Cape Canaveral, all connected to Fort Stockton, Texas, and Vantage Love 30 and Secret De Facto 30, of the geographics itself and the information of the Permian Basin based upon pronunciation of a footprint of a birth certificate or a preliminary prejudice, a product registration of a birth certificate, and even the thing about going with the graphite from the footprints of a birth certificate, going through a copying process, even biometrics and papermate, getting into the live scribe thing, beyond the thought of a paper, period. But anyway, I could go on and on. It's like, really, I really need to get a little bit of sleep, but I wanted to include that right there. Well, anyway, there it is, okay?